The stories shared on It Takes Balls are unique to the individual sharing. Always speak with your trusted medical provider for treatment options specific to you. Welcome back to It Takes Balls, presented by Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. It's December 1st. We are in the last month of 2023. Just a note, we're going to go from one episode a month to 2 episodes a month starting this month. So that's exciting if you're a listener. But this month, first episode, I'm joined by a current patient of testicular cancer treatment, Owen Murphy. Owen, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, you are currently in treatment. When you did the submission, you were a little bit earlier in it. Now you're in your last week of BEP, but let's talk about like before you got to where you are now. Let's talk about like when you were first diagnosed. What were you feeling? Was testicular cancer something ever you thought about before?
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go out there and say no. I had not been thinking about it. What do you mean? What I was feeling around the time of diagnosis?
Yeah, like what led you to finally go be seen?
Oh, okay, got you. I was just laying in bed one night, doing as most of us do, and kind of adjusting everything down there, and had noticed like a hard growth, or the tumor at the time on the back right of my testicle, and it was pretty small. My full growth was like 2.4 centimeters at the time of my orchiectomy and stuff. So at the time, not too concerned about it. Not a lot of pain or anything really. I noticed it, I guess, physically first. There wasn't any like pain or anything reasoning for me to be self-examining down there. But yeah. And I told my parents because I was a little, concerned. It did not feel normal. And then we are here now.
So you said you were adjusting yourself like as we do. I guess you had been familiar with yourself before that. You weren't technically doing like a self-exam, but you would notice something was different.
Yeah. No, so I lifeguard actually at the UT Swim Center when I'm home from school. And one of the things that I did notice was I have a fanny pack that sits on my lower abdomen area. So when I'm up on the stand, there was more of like a pressure feeling in that area, if you will. Just adjusting myself.
Yeah. All right. So when you told your parents that you felt that, what was their reaction?
Initially they had, they calmed me down. I'm always been actually pretty paranoid about my body. So, which is a good thing in this scenario. But I called them, and obviously my first thought actually is, what if, right? They calmed me down. They're like, no, there's no way. We'll go get it looked at, whatever. And my dad had reached out to some one of his buddies that he knew, a good urologist, and that was that.
And then what was the timeline between feeling it and then seeing this urologist that your dad knew?
I think I was in there in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was a pretty quick turnaround, just because I needed like the peace of mind too. Because I was like, I wouldn't say I was super like thinking about it all the time, but it was definitely something that was on my mind.
Yeah. So tell me about when you went to the urologist. What was that like?
Let's see, like walk you through all of my process there, I guess. Yeah. So I went initially, and he just gave me a physical exam, and he initially thought because of how young I am, I guess that it was I'm going to butcher this, but an epididymal cyst maybe. Mm-hmm. Which is, he pretty much told me, don't worry about it. It should be fine unless the pain gets worse, whatever. And I left from that, and here, hold on. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm going to blame it on the chemo, brain fog. It's been happening a lot.
No worries.
Yeah. He told me it was a cyst. He told me don't worry about it. He told me that if the pain increases, to call him. And so I went with the physical exam, and then he said, because of your age range and all this, good stuff, we're going to give you an ultrasound. I did my ultrasound, didn't really think much of it. And then I actually went in, this is an interesting tidbit, but I went in for my follow-up after my ultrasound, and my parents were out of town. And so they were actually on a vacation in the Exumas with some friends, some family friends from college. And so I got diagnosed when when I was home alone,
Mm.
which was definitely an interesting doctor's appointment, to say the least. But I went, and he told me we think it's a testicular cancer. It's a mass, most likely, right? They can't couldn't tell me for sure yet until the orchiectomy, but um, yeah, that was a tense room, because he got my dad on the phone, explained everything to my dad. My dad's also like, what is going on? But yeah,
So this was in July of this year, 2023.
July 24th.
And then, so what was the time from that appointment to having your orchiectomy?
My orchiectomy was August 3rd. So I believe we waited. He said like 1 to 2 weeks isn't going to change much. So I think we waited about a couple of weeks to get some second opinions, and just have the I don't know, peace of mind to know that we're doing the right thing, doing a surgery like that. But
Yeah, and you mentioned your age earlier. I don't know if I mentioned it off the top. I can't remember, but yeah, you're 19, so you're the youngest guest we've had on,
okay,
which is good because 15 to 44 is kind of the age range that TCAF
yeah,
talks about. So I appreciate you applying and wanting to represent the
yeah,
teens here.
yeah. No, definitely got to get some younger guys in here.
Yeah. Talk to me about the period of second opinions you mentioned, because I know at one point in your submission you said you reached out to Dr. Einhorn and then Dr. Cost.
No, so the second opinion. Actually, I guess we didn't really get in a second opinion in between or before the orchiectomy. The orchiectomy happened, and then the second opinion was mainly, "Hey, is this cancer?" And then it was second opinions on and around what kind. So mainly the pathology of it,
Okay.
because that can vary with treatment and stuff. So let's see. Yeah, I don't. There was like a family friend that we knew somehow, some way, and just got lucky that ended up being in the doctors of the radiologists that got my pathology originally through Dr. Kasurik's office. And that was someone my dad knew, and he just ended up, giving us a second opinion on pathology. And then we did have MD Anderson look at it because we had an appointment lined up. We ended up not going because it didn't make sense. But they said the same thing. And then, but I would say Dr. Cost was our main, like second opinion. And we gave him the pathology, and I think he looked at it, and he gave us the same answer. But yeah, he was our main one, and I actually think Dr. Cost ended up, it was a small world. He knew the doctor we had at MD Anderson that we were going to go to. He was in what's it called? I think he studied with him in college or something like that. So
Awesome.
but it's interesting to see that come full circle, that Dr. Cost was on the podcast, and because I know y'all are trying to raise awareness, right? And we saw him through that, and we absolutely love the guy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned that you were a student at in Colorado. So
Yeah.
talk to me about like how this kind of all impacted your studies. I mean, I guess this was in the summer, so maybe you hadn't quite gotten back into the semester, but like what was going through your head, like with this diagnosis and what, the future was going to hold?
No, yeah, and I'm glad you asked that, because and you mentioning me being younger, and I think there's a lot that comes with this disease in general, that from more of a mental side of things, obviously. But when younger guys get it, there's a big social hit that you take. You may not be have a job working, and you just take time off and come back from that, which is still hard, but there's a lot that comes in with like school and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up just taking the semester off, because I ended up doing the full 3 cycles of BEP. But originally I thought that I was going to have to do, or I thought that I could do 3 weeks, and I thought that I could do that there, but that is not the case. Which that would have been pretty difficult, from my understanding now. But I'm doing it again. Uh, let's see. Uh, God.
No, you're good. Talking about being a student in the semester,
Oh, yeah,
taking the
yeah.
semester off.
Yeah. No, so yeah, I ended up taking off. I'm not taking any classes or anything. It ended up actually coming at a good time because I've been able to take time off and lines up to where I finish and have some recovery over Christmas break. So I have a good, 3, 4 weeks. And then to kind of shed the chemo fog, all that good stuff, and get back to in the spring, which has been a big motivator because it'd be really hard to miss an entire year of school, academically, let alone socially. But so yeah.
Yeah, and you would have been like in high school, I guess, when COVID was happening. So I don't know how it was in Texas. I don't know if schools were open or closed at that time. But I mean, yeah, you've definitely been through the school ringer there.
Yeah, yeah, no. Texas was it was interesting. We were on Zoom for a lot of it, but in person for probably more than we should have.
So tell me about, you mentioned you originally were hoping for the 3 weeks of BEP. Talk to me about the
Mhm.
decision to go with the full course of BEP.
Well, I guess it wasn't much of a decision. It was kind of made for us, but um, there was a point in time where I was my CT scans were clean. My blood work was elevated, but very, very minor. It was like I guess what my FP was like 30 something post op. Pre op it was normal, or at least like what we thought was my normal. Um, and then it elevated. Well, it started elevating, and they thought it was kind of like a false, maybe a false testing. Maybe the lab work had been messed up. They thought it could have elevated because of other reasons. And they kind of, I don't know, it kind of sounded like it wasn't gonna keep going up. They kind of kept reassuring, and but we had to keep testing it. And so at that time, they had given me the choice. You could go surveillance, you can go one round of BEP, so 3 weeks, and that's what we were kind of leaning towards, just because I don't know, surveillance to me sounds super, super like enduring on the mind. It's a lot of anxiety. You got to, just deal with a lot of looming thoughts, if you will. And so that was what I wanted to do. And then I start moving in. I start moving into college and, moving into my apartment and, keeping all of this kind of tuck while I'm around all my buddies and stuff, and the hype of being back, and everyone's super excited and giddy to get out and about. So I'm trying to enjoy that at the same time. I'm seeing Dr. Cost, and we're awaiting these results. And so I get them back, and it went up to I think 40 something. So a big jump. You can see the trend. As Dr. Cost actually said, he said the writing is on the wall. And that's when we started talking to him about, chemotherapy plans or I guess treatment plans, and what that kind of looks like. Because 3X was our treatment option at that point. So,
And then what did that do to you mentally when he told you that like you were going to go from what you thought would be, just a quick 3 weeks of BEP to then the full 3 rounds of it?
yeah, no, it was definitely probably the toughest news that I'd heard throughout all this, because I've gotten some tough news of the initial diagnosis and all that stuff, but this one stung a little bit more because I thought I was getting away from a big chunk of it, and that was a big thing for me. I was trying to avoid as much chemotherapy as possible, which is another driving factor for the 3 weeks. So. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was tough.
Yeah. And then talking about like getting back to school and being with all your friends and everybody's all giddy. At what point, if ever, did you tell your friends what was going on?
So I did end up informing my fraternity, which is a big. It's my I would say it's my base group of friends. I had a small handful that like three or four that already knew about it. Those are people that are very very close that I had called after diagnosis. But I decided to wait with all of that because I didn't know what exactly I would be even telling at that point. So I waited until I got my results back, and then I went back to my apartment and sketched up a an okay speech and presented that to my fraternity at our chapter meeting with all the guys present, which is it's a little bit nerve wracking, and just kind of laid all the facts out there and but reassured them, told them I was going to be okay. It was a big thing, which is one of the very few good things about testicular cancer is most of the time you're going to be okay. And then, sprinkled in some words of motivation, maybe guilt tripped them a little bit to have an extra successful semester, and left at that.
Yeah. And I mean, however many guys there are in the fraternity, they're now aware. So, what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going through is raising awareness for them too.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of response did they give you when you gave that speech to them?
I got a lot of pats on the back. I think I definitely have an extra level of respect from those guys for that because I stood up and I was vulnerable, laid all my problems out there, and I think they respected me for that. And obviously they know I'm going through some pretty tough times, and they're there for me for that in every way. But I did actually have a couple guys come up to me and go, hey, how'd you find it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Which is a good feeling to know that that they have. Everyone's got worries. You don't need to be embarrassed about it. Just go to the doctor and uh, figure it out.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the BEP now. Tell me about like your first round, any side effects, and then we'll progress from first round to current.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing I do want to point out before I forget is something that Dr. Cost had gone to bat for, which is using a peripheral IV for your treatment for a young men specifically. So I'm going to vouch for my young men right now. Because one thing he mentioned is 22% from his studies or professional side of things develop a clot or some sort of clot with a port or which I think he might actually said that on here. I don't know. And with a port or a PICC line, they tend to cause problems. And so I've chosen to not do that, obviously, because he told me I shouldn't. And that has actually worked out just fine. Now I do have some, aches and pains in my veins every once in a while. I actually have one right now that's not going away, but it's of the last of it. That's a big thing for me. I don't know that I could not imagine dealing with more problems on top of all of the chemotherapy like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. So, so let's talk about like side effects from the first week. Like what point did you lose your hair? When did you start feeling nauseous, if at all?
So I'd like to say I've been pretty lucky so far. I need to knock on wood so I can finish up my last with with the minimal symptoms I've had. Nausea, really, really none of it. I've dodged that bullet almost completely. I haven't thrown up yet. I feel like I'm kind of gloating a bit.
No, you're good. I didn't throw up until the last week of mine either. So
Yeah. So, but that was that's been great. I've definitely dealt with some appetite changes here and there. So the first week actually is when, you get on the appetite or the not appetite, nausea steroid. And that's made my appetite, increase, which I actually kind of enjoyed because I was able to eat a ton of food. Um, and I'm pretty bored. So being able to eat a lot of food is a plus. Um, let's see. And then the first week was a lot of fatigue, a lot of just being tired and sleeping. Those days are, longer days in the infusion room. So I would, go to my infusion, get up early, try to eat a meal. That was a big thing for me. I would usually feel better in the infusions if I, you know, ate something beforehand, which maybe sounds counterintuitive, but and then probably, I guess, on the first couple of days, I stayed up and I was, active in the infusion room. But then I ended up, trying to sleep and sleep through that, and then I would end up sleeping when I got home. But the first week was a lot of that, headaches, and the fog felt like it set on for me pretty early. It's definitely a much stronger in those busy weeks. But I started losing so I buzzed my head before I even started. Not like a bald shave, but like a buzz cut. Cause I knew, I knew it was coming. I was like, why not? Let's see how it looks beforehand. Right. And, so I did that. And then about 2 weeks in, the 2 week mark, I would say, so a full 2 weeks into treatment is when I started. It didn't, completely go, but started, it was coming back along the sides and started getting patchy. And so at that point, I just shaved it. So I guess pretty early. And then it just never came back after that point.
Did you feel like when it started to fall out that it was like really prickly, like where it almost hurt?
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because I felt like I had pins poking in my head.
Yeah. No, my scalp was, it did feel extra sensitive where the bunches of hair that were going. Um, and then I guess it kind of subsided after everything went, but yeah, interesting feeling.
And then did you have any lung issues with the bleo?
I actually, so this is interesting too, because I have asthma. And so we talked to Dr. Coster, like, is that a concern? Is that something that's going to cause problems? And he did not seem concerned. And I have had nothing so far. Hopefully we will stay that way. Yeah, I've for the most part avoided it. And this is another interesting thing is I actually had COVID 2 weeks before I started my chemo. So I had to wait because like I was supposed to start and I was like, I'm a little under the weather. It is actually the third time I've had COVID. But both times I had no problem with it, but this time was a little less for whatever reason. And so thank God we tested for it before starting, because that would be a bad combination. And, I don't want to expose anyone in the infusion room to COVID, but yeah, I put that behind me and then eventually started, and I had a little bit of a cough, and it actually got better during treatment. So I was able to avoid the bleo. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So then your second round, any changes in how it affected you?
The second round, I would say, is when I noticed the most buildup. That's probably the weakest I've felt. I'm cycle 3 is probably right in there too, but being on the end of it, it's kind of easier. I don't know. I think my energy levels might just be up because I have I'm in a better mood about the whole deal. But the second cycle, definitely, I definitely noticed more just build up of symptoms. Things just intensified. That's when my appetite wasn't, I wasn't nauseous. I wasn't, not able to eat, but I would definitely have to, oh, I can eat right now. I need to eat, eat when you can, kind of thing. Because you don't know if you'll be able to eat a full meal. And yeah, I don't think I used the nausea medicine that they give you, that the prevent or the treatment medicine that you can kind of use. I hadn't used it yet until the second cycle, and that was probably um, the worst of it.
Yeah, and then you're in your third cycle now. So how are things going currently?
Yeah, so the third busy week was a busy week. That the veins do get tired. That is one thing. Um, but I assure you, if you choose to go that route, you can get through it. That's probably been my most annoying symptom. Is the veins, just because they're extra sensitive right now, and as you go through the therapy, it gets more and more. So finding a vein necessarily good for treatment is more of a challenge for the nurses now. Um, but I made it through that week. Was able to find a fitting vein every day, just alternating arms and moving it around. And they've figured out, if they flush me with some fluids, and if I keep heat on it, and just stay good about monitoring them, and I can, for the most part, avoid any like superficial clotting, which I've been able to avoid this whole time. So, but yeah, I definitely. I'm trying to think how these past weeks have been. The bleomycin has. I've noticed an increase in that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, the second bleomycin shot always kind of knocks me on my butt for like a good 2-3 days. And just kind of like the bleo feeling, just a little, maybe like my face will get hot. I'll just feel a little hot, not like a fever, but like a weird, like achy sickness, headaches. I don't know, but yeah.
So with the IV, are they accessing a different vein every day? So like 15
That's the
to 20.
goal.
Wow.
That's the goal.
Are they getting
Some of my
creative?
veins, some of my, yeah, they're definitely getting creative. Some of my veins are, I don't know, able to take it easy more than another one, right? So if I do one and I wake up the next day and it's not that sore, I might go back to that one. Usually I try to give them a break, but I'll keep that in mind, is, that's a, a tougher one. But yeah, no, they've started having to go like up, downward on my forearm instead of on this side, and we try to avoid the ones in the crooks of your elbow, but those tend to be the best. So
Yeah. So when they're doing like the back of your arm, like, I mean, if you're sleeping or awake doing stuff, how does that affect like whatever you're doing?
for the most part, they've made it like I can still move around and stuff. They've made it pretty easy, but if it's not in the crook, if it's below, I'll sit there with a heating pad on a pillow and kind of rest the IV. If it's like you said, if it's like my arms putting the weight on it. But for the most part, they use as small needles as they can, right? So, but usually I'm not sitting there in pain. That's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Through these later weeks, while I'm getting treatment, sometimes it'll sting or burn every once in a while, but it's not nothing that's like super intense, or I don't know.
Have you had to
Gonna
get up and pee a lot? Because I remember with all the fluids, like constantly up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yes, that is definitely a thing, and I've actually during the cisplatin weeks, where you're in there, 4 or 5 hours a day. I would end up on Tuesday or Wednesday. I guess this time around it was Thursday. They ended up giving me Lasix, and it's like you're peeing like a nice long, bathroom break every 10-15 minutes.
Having had COVID 3 times, can you smell the pee?
Yes.
Terrible
Yes.
smell.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that that has that, because it's bad. Yeah. And it's almost a similar, well, this is really gross. It's almost a similar taste because I almost can taste like the chemo when I'm in there or during the weeks. Like my water bottle, I'll start to have to like switch it out almost. Maybe it's in my head, but I can taste something and it's not good.
Interesting. Yeah. I did have a port. So like I got to where at the end when they would like clean the site every day, like whatever they were using to clean it, just that made me want to puke. So I had to like turn my head and kind of like, I don't know, but the smells definitely are intense.
Yeah, no, they are.
Do you have any advice for somebody who is going through treatment? As somebody who's in it right now, like staying mentally fit or staying distracted or whatever advice you have.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to find a group of, if not in person, obviously, there can be some restrictions on that because you don't want to get sick and, you want to be focused on your treatment number one priority. Right. But one thing I found is, I've got some really good buddies, that are in college right now, that I grew up with. And those are guys that have been here for me since like the first day of my diagnosis. Like I mentioned, when my parents were gone, and when I got diagnosed, they were, kind of in the middle of nowhere. So my buddies came and, stayed with me and just, kind of hung out and, nobody wants to be home alone dealing with the first initial thoughts of that diagnosis. So, and I stay connected with them through this. And I mean, while this kind of maybe sounds cheesy, played a lot of video games with them. And just try to get up every day and have, kind of like a routine of just like shower and, like brush your teeth. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but like get up and like get ready and, maybe eat a good meal, go, read something, go for a walk. And then, I would get on and, hang out with those guys and just chat and, talk about regular things. And that was a big thing for me, is just like having some regular interaction, because there's not a lot of people my age, around me right now. All my buddies are back at college doing their thing. So just being able to, I don't know, interact and, bring some social, just hanging out kind of thing.
Great advice. What gaming system are you on? And then if you could share your tag in case anybody who's going through it wants to add you and play with you.
Yeah, no, I'm on a PlayStation 5. You can add me at odog_04. So that's ODAWG_04. Add it. Feel free to reach out. But that's been a big thing for me. A lot of college football. I am a Buss fan because I'm a student, but I'm also a diehard Longhorn fan. So
you got the helmet back there behind you.
Yeah. Well, this is my dad's office, so we'll give him credit. But a lot of sports. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask about?
I thought one thing I felt that I thought was interesting is, kind of being on the end of it, and seeing it from a different perspective than I was when I was in it, and a different perspective than I was, before I started treatment, knowing I had to do this treatment, is that I feel like you're constantly told you're okay. You're constantly told, for the most part, most people, from my experience, sounds like they've caught it somewhat early. Like that's what I was told. And, I ended up doing a full 3, but, I caught it, kind of when it was going to blow up, because I only had one CT scan that was, dirty, and it hadn't metastasized. It was just, swollen lymph nodes. So I think I was still 1S. But you're told all of this and that, it's the best kind of cancer to have, and, thinking it's going to be, I don't know. I think I found myself thinking it was going to be this, easier thing because of the cure rate and because of all these statistics that are kind of in front of you. And, it's not easy, and you have to remind yourself that. And so I think that that's a big thing for me that stuck out, is that while there's so many good resources around it, and that the cure rate is really good and that your chances are really good, to not discount yourself, and that you're still going through, it is still cancer, it is still a big turning point in wherever it is in your life. So I don't know, that's a big thing for me. And it also just being given a better perspective on life in general. I think it forces some of us to mature, which I would already say, I was somewhat mature, but this is definitely amped that up. And I think in some, in really good ways, there's a lot of powerful lessons from it. And so I don't know, I guess while I have my platform, to the younger guys out there and to everyone out there, like take what you can from it. 'Cause it's a split second, and it feels like a split second when you're out of it. Like, it's just like I don't know, it comes at you. And there's a lot of good lessons from it that you can take. I don't know.
Yeah, great perspective. And I was going to also ask about kind of what you said, like giving you a new perspective on life, like being 19. What are you studying?
So I'm still kind of deciding that, but along the lines of business, if I'm not to go that route, I will do principles of strategic communication with a business minor. So,
okay. Yeah. So, I mean, do you see yourself taking this experience and using it at all in whatever career you might end up doing?
I think I will in a way, just because I told my dad this, that it kind of gives you like a bird's eye view on life. And it's because it's kind of hard to not think about life in every aspect when you're going through something like this, especially when you're pulled back socially, and you're pulled back socially, but you're also pulled back like scholastically, I guess. You're not really taking school. You're not really, doing anything really productive with your time while you're in treatment. So it just lets you not only give you this aspect of shock and then kind of nothing, like, right. It's kind of a lull. So it's given me a lot of time to think and just be appreciative and be grateful, and for the things that I do have going for me, because not everyone does. And I don't know. I think it will just make a more mature sense of my professional connections, maybe just simply how you interact with people day to day. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned your PlayStation gamer tag. Any other socials where people can find you?
Well, I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, like, I don't know, it's Owen Murphy _04. That's how you can, if you want to keep track of me, want to, see any updates, I'm sure there'll be a post on there when I wrap all this up. So if you're interested, but yeah.
Cool. Owen Murphy, thank you so much for being on It Takes Balls.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. Thank you for having me.
For more information and resources for your testicular cancer journey, visit testicularcancerawarenessfoundation.org. You can also follow us on social media at Testis Cancer. We're on Facebook at Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation.